The wind howled across the frozen wasteland of Kepler 442 be like the voices of the dead. Snow fell in thick sheets, turning the world into a blinding wall of white. The temperature had dropped to -40 degrees, cold enough to freeze blood in seconds. Marcus Chen pulled his thermal coat tighter as he trudged through the knee-deep snow. His breath came out in sharp puffs that turned to ice crystals before hitting the ground. The mining colony's emergency beacon had gone silent 3 days ago, and he was the only rescue pilot crazy enough to fly in this storm. "Control, this is Rescue 7, Marcus spoke into his helmet com. "I'm approaching the colony site now. Visibility is near 0. Static crackled back. "Copy, Rescue 7. Be advised, orbital scans show the colony structures are completely buried. No signs of life." Marcus grimaced. 47 miners and their families had called this place home. Now it looked like a frozen graveyard. The storm had hit without warning, a massive weather system that shouldn't have formed on this planet according to all the climate models. He activated his thermal scanner and swept it across the landscape. Nothing but cold rock and ice. The mining equipment was buried somewhere under 15 feet of snow. The residential pods had vanished completely. A faint beep made him stop. His scanner had picked up something. Not a heat signature exactly, but some kind of energy reading. Weak, almost gone, but definitely there. Marcus changed direction, following the signal. His boots crunched through the snow as he climbed over a ridge. The reading grew stronger. Whatever it was close. Then he saw it. A small crater in the snow, like something had crashed here. Dark metal gleamed through the white powder. Not human technology. The edges were too smooth, too organic looking. This was alien. Marcus had heard the stories, of course. Everyone had. First contact 3 years ago with the Zephyrian Empire? Tall, elegant beings with pale blue skin and silver hair. They claimed to rule half the galaxy and looked at humans like insects. The diplomatic meetings had gone badly. The Zephyrians made it clear they saw Earth as a primitive backwater not worth their time. But what was one of their ships doing here? He approached carefully, hand resting on his sidearm. The craft was small, maybe a personal shuttle. One side had been torn open, revealing a cabin filled with ice and debris. His thermal scanner was going crazy now, detecting multiple heat sources inside. Marcus climbed down into the wreckage. His helmet light cut through the darkness, revealing overturned equipment and frozen pools of what looked like blood. Then his light fell on something that made him stop breathing, a body. Definitely Zephyrian, with that characteristic pale blue skin and tall frame. But this one was different. Where most Zephyrians he'd seen were pristine and cold, this one looked young. Female, maybe. Her clothes were torn and bloody. One arm was bent at an impossible angle. She was holding something. Marcus moved closer, his light revealing 2 small bundles wrapped in what looked like emergency thermal blankets. His scanner showed faint heat signatures from both bundles. Still alive, but barely, the female Zephyrian's eyes suddenly snapped open. They were a deep violet color, unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. She looked at him with pure terror, clutching the bundles tighter to her chest. "Please," she whispered in heavily accented standard English. "Do not hurt them." Marcus raised his hand slowly. "I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm a rescue pilot." What happened here? The alien girl's breathing was shallow and ragged. She couldn't be more than 18 in human years, though Marcus knew Zephyrian aging was different. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth as she spoke. "They found me," she gasped. "When they learned what I had done, they said I was—" She struggled for the word. "Contaminated, unworthy. Who found you?" "My own people." Tears froze on her cheeks as soon as they fell. "I mated with someone they did not approve. These are my daughters." Marcus looked at the bundles she held. 2 babies, he realized, half Zephyrian by the look of them. Their skin was a lighter shade of blue, and they were smaller than normal Zephyrian infants. "They brought me here to die," the girl continued, said the Coldwood. "Cleanse their bloodline of my shame. But I will not let my babies—" Her voice broke. I will not let them freeze. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. Leaving anyone to die in a storm was bad enough? Leaving a mother with newborn babies was beyond cruel. What's your name? He asked. Zara. She coughed, sending droplets of silver blood onto the snow. My name is Zara. Okay, Zara, I'm Marcus. And I'm getting you and your babies out of here? He pulled out his emergency shelter generator, a compact device that could create a heated bubble around them. The shelter bloomed to life, its energy field cutting off the wind and snow. The temperature inside began to rise immediately. Zara stared at him in confusion. You would ... save us? But we are Zephyrian. Your people and mine are not friends. Marcus was already opening his medical kit. I don't care about politics. You're a mother protecting her children. That's all that matters to me. He began working on her injuries, applying biofoam to stop the bleeding and injecting pain medication that worked on most humanoid species. Her broken arm would need proper medical attention, but this would keep her alive for now. I do not understand, Zara said, watching him work. Your species is supposed to be primitive, violent, that is what they told us. Yeah. Well, your people aren't exactly known for their compassion either, Marcus replied, wrapping her arm in a medical splint. Doesn't mean we can't do better. He examined the babies next. They were both breathing, but their body temperature was dangerously low. He activated warming patches and wrapped them in his own thermal blanket. They need milk, Zara whispered. But I am too weak ... Marcus pulled out his emergency ration pack. Inside was a universal infant formula designed for use with various humanoid species. The stuff tasted terrible, but it would keep the babies alive. This will work until we get you to a medical facility, he said, preparing the bottles. What are their names? I have not named them yet, Zara said sadly. In my culture, children are not named until their first month of life. I thought we would all be dead before then. Marcus fed the first baby, a tiny thing that couldn't weigh more than 4 pounds. She latched onto the bottle eagerly, her violet eyes looking up at him with complete trust. She's beautiful, he said honestly. Zara's expression softened. You really think so? My people said they were abominations? Mixed blood makes them weak, they claimed. Your people are idiots, Marcus said bluntly. These girls are perfect. He fed the second baby while monitoring their vitals on his scanner. Both were responding well to the warmth and nutrition. Their breathing was getting stronger. Why are you doing this? Zara asked. Humans gain nothing from helping us. If anything, your government would probably prefer if we simply ... disappeared. Marcus looked at her seriously. Because it's the right thing to do? Because no mother should watch her children die. And because maybe, just maybe, if I show you that humans aren't what you were told, you might remember that when you meet other humans. He activated his emergency beacon. Control, this is Rescue 7. I found survivors. 3 individuals requiring immediate medical evacuation. Copy that, Rescue 7. What's their condition? Marcus looked at Zara, who was watching him with something like wonder in her eyes. They're going to make it, he said into the comm. All 3 of them are going to make it. The rescue ship arrived 2 hours later, its powerful engines cutting through the storm like it was nothing. As the medical team loaded Zara and her babies onto stretchers, she reached out and grabbed Marcus's hand. I will not forget this, she said. What you have done, it changes everything I thought I knew. Just focus on getting better, Marcus said. And take care of those little girls. As the ship lifted off, carrying them to safety, Marcus stood alone in the storm. He had no idea that this moment would change the course of human-Zephyrian relations forever. He had no idea that those 2 babies would grow up to bridge 2 civilizations. He only knew that he had done what any decent person would do. He had saved a family. The storm continued to rage, but somehow the universe felt a little warmer back on the rescue ship. Zara held her daughters close as human medics worked to stabilize her injuries. The doctor, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, checked on the babies with the same care she would show human infants. They're strong, the doctor said. Both of them. Whatever you did to keep them alive in those conditions, it worked. Zara looked through the viewport at Marcus's figure disappearing into the storm below. It was not me, she said quietly. It was him. That human. He saved us when my own people left us to die. The doctor nodded. That's Marcus for you. He's pulled more impossible rescues than anyone in the service. Never leaves anyone behind, no matter who they are or where they're from. But why? Zara asked. What does he gain? The doctor smiled. Nothing. That's the point. Marcus does it because it's right, not because it benefits him. A lot of humans are like that, actually. Your people might be surprised. Zara looked down at her sleeping daughters. For the first time since their birth, she felt hope. Maybe there was a future for them after all. Maybe the universe was bigger than the hatred between their peoples. As the ship carried them toward safety and a new life, she began to tea. 3 years had passed since the storm on Kepler 442b. The New Geneva colony on Earth's moon had become home to an unusual family that had captured the attention of both humans and aliens. Across the galaxy, Zara stood in the observation deck of her apartment, watching her twin daughters play in the lunar gardens below. Luna and Terra, the names she had chosen to honor both their heritage and the world that had welcomed them. At 3 years old, they were remarkable children who moved between two cultures with ease that amazed everyone around them. Mama, watch this. Luna called out, her voice carrying the musical quality of Zephyrian speech mixed with human enthusiasm. She had inherited her mother's violet eyes, but her skin was a pale lavender rather than blue. Her hair was silver-white like most Zephyrians, but it curled like a human child's. Terra was slightly taller, taking after the Zephyrian side more, but she laughed with pure human joy as she chased Luna through the artificial meadow. The other children in the colony, both human and the few aliens who lived there, played alongside them without any thought of differences. They're getting fast, came a familiar voice behind Zara. She turned to see Marcus approaching, carrying a bag of groceries and wearing the civilian clothes he preferred during his off-duty time. Over the past 3 years, he had become much more than their rescuer. He was their friend, their guide to human culture, and something like a father figure to the girls. The doctors say their hybrid genetics are giving them advantages from both species, Zara said, accepting the grocery bag from him. Zephyrian intelligence and reflexes, but human adaptability and emotional development? Marcus nodded, settling into the chair beside her. Speaking of doctors, I got the results from their latest health screening. Both girls are developing perfectly. Dr. Richardson thinks they might actually be healthier than pure children from either species. Zara smiled, but Marcus could see the worry in her eyes. The Zephyrian delegation is arriving next week, she said quietly. I know. I'll be part of the security detail for the diplomatic talks. For months, rumors had spread through both human and Zephyrian space about the rescued family. Some humans saw them as proof that aliens could be trusted and accepted. Others viewed them with suspicion. But it was the Zephyrian reaction that worried Zara most. The Zephyrian Empire had initially denied that Zara and her children existed at all. When video evidence surfaced, they claimed she was a criminal who had stolen technology and fled. But as more details emerged about how she had been abandoned to die, public opinion in the Empire began to shift. A faction of younger Zephyrians, led by someone called the Progressive Council, had begun questioning the Empire's rigid policies about genetic purity. They wanted to meet Zara and her daughters. The traditionalists, however, viewed them as living symbols of contamination that needed to be eliminated. Ambassador Veltar specifically requested to meet the girls, Marcus said carefully. The diplomatic corps thinks it's a positive sign. Zara's expression darkened. Veltar was one of the judges who condemned me. He voted to have me exiled to die. People can change, Zara. Look how much human-Zephyrian relations have improved since your story became public. It was true. 3 years ago, the two species barely tolerated each other. Now there were cultural exchange programs, joint research initiatives, and even a few intermarriage permits being discussed. Zara's rescue had become a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. Down in the garden, Luna had discovered a butterfly and was trying to communicate with it in the way Zephyrian children were taught to connect with nature. Tara watched with fascination, then began copying her sister's movements. "They're so innocent," Zara said. "They don't understand the politics. To them, being half human and half Zephyrian is just normal." "Maybe that's how it should be," Marcus replied. "Maybe they're showing the rest of us what normal could look like." The apartment's communication system chimed. Zara's expression grew tense as she recognized the incoming transmission code. It was from the Zephyrian Empire. "Zara of the House of Silver Moon," came the formal voice through the translator. "You are commanded to present yourself and your offspring to the Imperial Delegation for judgment and potential repatriation." Marcus stood up, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm even though he wasn't on duty. "They can't just command you to do anything. You're under human protection." Zara closed her eyes. She had known this day would come. "They're my people, Marcus. Legally, I'm still subject to Imperial law." "The hell you are. You requested asylum 3 years ago. Earth granted it, but my daughters—" Zara's voice broke. "They have rights to their heritage. What if I'm denying them their culture by keeping them here?" Marcus knelt beside her chair. "Zara, look at me. You've seen what your culture does to people who don't fit their perfect little boxes. You've seen how humans have accepted your girls. Where do you think they'll be safer?" Before Zara could answer, Luna and Tara came running into the apartment, their faces bright with excitement. "Mama! Uncle Marcus!" Tara called out. "We saw a space shuttle landing." "Are we getting visitors?" Luna bounced on her toes. "Is it more aliens? I want to show them my pictures." The innocent enthusiasm of her daughters hit Zara like a physical blow. These children had grown up knowing they were loved and accepted exactly as they were. They had no concept of the hatred and fear that had driven their own people to abandon them. "Yes, sweethearts," she said, forcing a smile. "Some very important aliens are coming to visit." "Are they nice like Aunt Sarah and Dr. Richardson?" Luna asked. Marcus exchanged a look with Zara. Aunt Sarah was their human neighbor who babysat the girls. Dr. Richardson was their pediatrician. Both women had embraced the family completely from the beginning. "We'll see," Zara said diplomatically. That evening, after the girls were asleep, Zara and Marcus sat on the apartment's balcony, looking out at Earth hanging in the lunar sky. The blue and green world had become a symbol of hope for Zara, a place where her daughters could grow up free from the prejudices of the Empire. "I've been thinking about what they said," Zara said quietly. "About repatriation." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "You're not seriously considering ... What if they're right? What if keeping the girls here is selfish? They could have opportunities in the Empire that humans can't provide. Access to Zephyrian education, technology, culture. And they could also be ostracized, discriminated against, or worse," Marcus said firmly. "You told me yourself what happened to other mixed children in the Empire." Zara nodded sadly. "They were removed from society, sent to special facilities where they could be monitored and contained, but that was before. Maybe things have changed? Or maybe they want your girls as propaganda tools? Think about it, Zara. A successful diplomat brings back the exiled woman and her mixed children, proves the Empire's compassion and wisdom. Great publicity." The next day, the Zephyrian delegation arrived with full diplomatic ceremony. Ambassador Veltar was exactly as Zara remembered him, tall, elegant, and radiating cold authority. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his pale blue skin seemed to glow with health, and his violet eyes showed no warmth whatsoever. "Zara of the House of Silver Moon," he said formally as they met in the diplomatic conference room. "You have caused quite a stir in the Empire." "I'm sure I have," Zara replied, keeping her voice steady. She wore her finest human clothing, a simple but elegant dress that Luna had picked out because it makes Mama look like a princess. "Where are the children?" Veltar asked, looking around the room. They're in school, Marcus interjected. He stood behind Zara in his formal security uniform, a reminder that she was under human protection. Valtar's gaze fixed on Marcus with obvious distaste. You are the human who interfered with imperial justice. I'm the human who saved a mother and her babies from freezing to death. Marcus replied evenly. You prevented the natural consequences of her crimes. Her crimes? Zara stood up, her voice rising. My crime was falling in love with someone you disapproved of. My crime was carrying children you deemed imperfect. My crime was refusing to let them die quietly. Valtar's expression didn't change. You violated the genetic purity laws. You contaminated the bloodline. These are serious matters in the Empire. But not here, came a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Director Chun, Marcus's grandmother and one of the senior leaders of the lunar colony. Behind her stood Luna and Terra, still wearing their school clothes and looking curious about the tall blue alien. Grandmother? Marcus said, surprised. I thought Ambassador Valtar should meet the children he's so interested in, Director. Chun said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Luna stepped forward with the fearless confidence of a child who had never been taught to fear anyone. Hello, she said in perfect Zephyrian, her accent flawless. I'm Luna. This is my sister Terra. Are you from the same place as Mama? Valtar stared down at the child. She was beautiful by any standard, with features that blended the best of both species. But Marcus could see the conflict in the ambassador's eyes. These children were everything the Empire claimed to despise, yet they were also undeniably remarkable. Yes, Valtar said slowly. I am from your mother's homeworld. Terra stepped up beside her sister. Is it pretty there? Mama tells us stories about crystal cities and singing forests. 2 hours later, Ambassador Valtar sat on the floor of the children's playroom, surrounded by drawings, toys, and the chattiest 3-year-olds in the lunar colony. His perfect diplomatic composure had completely dissolved as Luna explained her artwork with the serious intensity only children could manage. This one is you, Luna announced, holding up a drawing of a tall blue figure with silver hair. But I made you smiling because Uncle Marcus says smiling makes everything better. Valtar studied the crayon drawing. In it, the blue figure stood next to smaller figures representing Luna, Terra, Zara, and Marcus. They were all holding hands under a bright yellow sun. You drew us together, he said quietly. Of course, Terra chimed in. Mama says family can be anyone who loves you. So if you're Mama's friend from her home, that makes you family too. Zara watched from the doorway, her heart pounding. She had never seen Valtar like this. The cold, calculating diplomat who had condemned her to death was gone. In his place sat a confused, almost vulnerable man who seemed genuinely moved by her daughter's innocent acceptance. Marcus stood beside her, equally amazed. I don't think he's ever seen children who weren't afraid of him, he whispered. Children in the Empire are taught to fear authority from birth, Zara whispered back. These two have never learned that lesson. Luna had moved on to showing Valtar her collection of space minerals, each one carefully labeled with facts she'd learned from her human teachers. This one is from asteroid mining operations near Jupiter, she said proudly. And this one is from the rings of Saturn. Daddy Marcus took me to see them on his ship. Daddy Marcus? Valtar's gaze snapped to Marcus. Terra nodded enthusiastically. He's not our real daddy, but he does daddy things. Like teaching us to fly simulators and making pancakes on Saturday mornings and reading bedtime stories. Stories about what? Valtar asked. Everything, Luna said. Human heroes and Zephyrian legends and made-up adventures where everyone works together to save the universe. Valtar looked at Zara with something approaching wonder. You've taught them Zephyrian culture? Of course, Zara said, entering the room. I want them to know their heritage. Both sides of it. But I also teach them human values, Marcus added. Like standing up for what's right even when it's hard. Like helping people who need it even if they're different from you. Terra climbed into Valtar's lap with the casual affection of a child who trusted everyone until given a reason not to. What was Mama like when she was little? Was she as pretty as she is now? Veltar's hands trembled slightly as he steadied the child. She was ... remarkable. Even as a youngling, she asked questions no one else dared ask. She challenged ideas that had existed for centuries. Is that why you were mean to her? Luna asked with the blunt honesty of a 3-year-old. Veltar winced. I believed I was protecting our people. I thought mixing our blood with other species would make us weak. But we're not weak, Tara protested. Dr. Richardson says we're super healthy, and we can do things that pure humans and pure Zephyrians can't do. Like what? Veltar asked, genuinely curious. Luna jumped up excitedly. Watch this. She closed her eyes and held out her hand toward a toy spaceship on the shelf. The toy began to glow faintly and lifted into the air, floating gently toward her. Veltar gasped. Telekinesis. But that's an advanced Zephyrian ability that doesn't manifest until adolescence. Tara can do it too, Luna said proudly. And we can understand any language after hearing it just a few times. And we never get sick. The hybrid genetics seem to have activated dormant abilities from both species, Marcus explained. They're not weaker for being mixed. They're stronger. Veltar stared at the children in amazement. Everything he had been taught about genetic purity was crumbling before his eyes. These weren't the weak, contaminated beings he'd expected. They were magnificent. There's something else, Zara said quietly. She activated a holographic display that showed images from the past 3 years. Luna and Tara aren't the only ones. The display showed dozens of photographs and video clips, human and Zephyrian children playing together in colony schools, mixed families celebrating both species holidays, joint scientific expeditions, cultural exchanges. Since our story became public, 17 other mixed couples have come forward, Zara explained. They were hiding in fear, ashamed of their love. But when they saw that Luna and Tara were accepted and celebrated, they found courage. There are more children? Veltar asked. 32, at last count, Marcus said. All healthy, all brilliant, all proving that cooperation makes us stronger than division. And it's not just individuals, Zara continued. Entire colonies are requesting joint human-Zephyrian settlements. Trade agreements are being signed. Scientific collaborations are producing breakthrough discoveries. Luna tugged on Veltar's sleeve. Are you crying? She asked with concern. Veltar touched his cheek, surprised to find it damp. I think I am. It's okay, Tara said comfortingly. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're happy. Uncle Marcus cried when we graduated from baby school. Veltar looked around the room at this impossible family. At the human man who had risked everything to save strangers. At the Zephyrian woman who had chosen love over loyalty to her people. At the children who embodied the best of both species. I have to ask you something, he said to Zara. The Progressive Council wants you to return to the Empire. Not as an exile, but as an ambassador. They want you to help rewrite the genetic purity laws. Zara felt Marcus tense beside her. What would that mean? It would mean recognizing mixed relationships as valid, celebrating hybrid children instead of hiding them, opening true diplomatic relations with humanity. Veltar's voice grew stronger. It would mean admitting that the Empire has been wrong for centuries, and if the traditionalists refuse, then there will be civil war, Veltar said honestly. The Empire is splitting. Half of our people have seen the footage of your rescue, seen your daughters thriving, seen what cooperation can achieve. They want change. The other half? He shrugged. They would rather destroy the Empire than admit they were wrong. Marcus stepped forward. What about Luna and Tara? Would they be safe in the Empire? With the Progressive Council's protection, yes. But it would be dangerous. There are those who would try to harm them to prove their point. Luna looked up from her toys. Are you talking about us going on a trip? Maybe, sweetheart, Zara said carefully. How would you feel about visiting my old home? Would Uncle Marcus come with us? Tara asked. Marcus looked at Zara, then at the children. If you wanted me to, I'd follow you anywhere. Then it would be an adventure. Luna declared. We could show everyone how nice humans are. Veltar watched this exchange with growing amazement. You would really come? Knowing the risks? Someone has to, Zara said firmly. If there's a chance to spare other families what we went through, we have to try. The Progressive Council will protect you, Veltar promised. All of you. Marcus nodded slowly. And we'll do it together. 6 months later, the Zephyrian Empire changed forever. The Imperial Court had never seen anything like the hearing that took place when Zara and her family arrived on the homeworld. Luna and Terra, now speaking perfect High Zephyrian as well as Standard English, charmed even the most hardened traditionalists with their intelligence and enthusiasm. When young Lord Keffer declared that mixed children were abominations, Luna simply walked up to him and asked if he wanted to see her lift his ceremonial sword with her mind. When she did exactly that, floating the ancient weapon in a complex dance through the air while reciting traditional Zephyrian poetry she had memorized, the Lord sat down heavily and didn't speak for the rest of the session. Tara's demonstration was even more impressive. She connected telepathically with the court's sacred firebirds, creatures that had never responded to anyone outside the royal bloodline. As the magnificent creatures danced around her, singing in harmony with her thoughts, even the Emperor himself leaned forward in amazement. Marcus, meanwhile, had become something of a celebrity among younger Zephyrians. His story of rescuing a family without thought of reward or benefit had spread throughout the Empire. When he spoke to the court about human values of compassion and cooperation, his words carried the weight of his actions. 3 years ago, I found a dying mother and her children, he told the assembled nobles. I didn't save them because they were Zephyrian or because they might be useful to humanity. I saved them because it was right. Because no child should suffer for the prejudices of adults. Because love is stronger than fear. The vote, when it came, was closer than anyone expected. But it passed. The genetic purity laws were abolished. Mixed relationships were declared legal and valid. The Empire committed to true partnership with humanity and other species. Not everyone was happy. The hardline traditionalists split off, forming their own faction that eventually established isolated colonies far from the Empire's core, but they were a minority. Most Zephyrians, especially the younger generations, embraced the changes. Luna and Terra became symbols of the new era. They appeared in educational programs, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic ceremonies. But more importantly, they remained children who played, learned, and grew up knowing they were loved exactly as they were. On their 5th birthday, the family stood on the observant.